Hi, you guys. What it is yo girl, Cadillac Dixon. I am the Draw My Life prison wife. I am the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice. I am hoping to see justice before it all fades to black. Yes, and that is about my little eye condition where you see your girl got these glasses with the thickness on. Yeah, so one day I will lose my sight, and I really want to see my husband come home before that day comes. So that's what that's about. Hoping to see justice before it all fades to black. Yeah, here's your girl Cadillac. Anyways, today I am here with a new video. I know my little energy is up a little bit too much, but this one is a tough video. So I was thinking about, um, you know, my channel now. I kind of, put out my little selfish content. I wanted to make videos about Marcello Jackson and free Marcello Jackson and all of that stuff. But getting back to the core of what this is prison wife life. So I gotta be here to, tell you about the journeys that I have been on as a prison wife. And being that I am a prison wife OG, like the 20-year prison wife, like for real. So I know I collected a lot of knowledge along that dark, lonely road. And I'm hoping to pass this knowledge to you so that you can avoid a lot of the pitfalls that I ran into on this journey. So today, I compiled another list. Girl, I'm getting good with these lists. I'm loving these lists. It's making my content flow a lot better. And you already know I'm on that little I'm not editing nothing rant right now. I ain't even doing darn thumbnails right now because that is team way too much, So we getting our think on. Like I'm just sitting there contemplating, and I'm like, what would I have wanted to know when I first started this journey? And what's the best nuggets that I can pass on to you that are new to the journey or been on it for a little while? I would say maybe 5 years or less. So tonight, the topic is my biggest regrets of being a prison wife. The 10 biggest things that I regret being a prison wife. As y'all know, prison wife life is not easy. Oh my gosh. This definitely is not anything that I grew up and was like, oh, one day I want to be a prison wife. Like, no, girl. I wanted to be an artist. Like, that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all I wanted to be, an artist, wanted my little husband and my little kids and go sit down and paint me something and be very happily ever after. That was it. That was my dream in life. Okay, so I met the man of my dreams. We had our baby and we were on our way to happiness. But somewhere along that line, first, before I get too far and this thing ain't recording, I hope it's recording. Because I will spill through this whole list and it ain't even recording, girl. But after having our daughter, 2 months later, getting off of bed rest, I became a prison wife. Not expected. It hit me like a freaking like like an accident happens, like quick, unexpected. Something just and it sent me on a whirlwind, and it changed my life from one path to this path. And I have been on this path for 20 years. And girl, I want the heck off of this path. But as long as my man is behind them bars, unfortunately, this is my life. So, what do I regret most on this journey? Okay, so number one, not doing certain things sooner, such as GoFundMe. Okay, so I've tried so many things. If you followed me any amount of time on any social media, like I literally, when social media first started up, I have been on there advocating Marcello Jackson, wrongfully convicted, need help, please help, please help, please help, like for real, please share, please like, please, like everywhere since MySpace. MySpace girl, I have been advocating for my man. Like, girl, do you know how long ago MySpace was? 2006. I mean, I have been on every social platform, Twitter. I have been on Facebook. Facebook tired of me. They tired of posts about Marcello. That's why I kind of, I'm kind of like off of Facebook right now. And I've been on YouTube several times. I've been on any social media you can think of. And it's certain things that I just wish, like advocating that long and not really making the impact at all for all the work that I do. Like I never sit my behind down. My behind never takes a seat. I'm always with some new harebrained brain scheme on how to get my man home, girl. Like for real. I'm always back at the drawing board. Like for real. So I'm thinking with all of this freaking work I've done, and I've tried many attempts, the only hope that Marcello has is to get a gang of freaking money, like for me to possibly like win the freaking lotto or something. Like I don't even think my scratch offs win that much. I do have some. I can't find it, but I have a little lottery scratch off. But I don't never win none more than a couple of dollars, girl. But that is the only like thing that would bring my man home because I need a shitload of money, like for real, to afford any type of legal assistance. So, what I do regret, one of my biggest regrets, because I'm looking back on how long it has taken me and I see all the baby steps I've made over this long span of time. And I'm like, girl, had you just set up a GoFundMe, like years upon years ago when GoFundMe first the freak came out, I could possibly have that amount of money needed for a lawyer. Like, I can't believe that over all these years, like, I really thought eventually I would get myself financially stable to where I would be able to afford a lawyer. But, it was kind of hard being a single mother. And then, when you are a prison wife, you already know the demands on your pocketbook, because of that. And then when you are a single mother, you know that. And then my daughter was like spoiled. She's my little sour patch, kid. So, baby, them pockets been hurt. I cannot believe, I regret not being able to actually save up the money for a lawyer. I clearly should have lawyer money by this time. Like I should have set up some type of bank account or something, just putting $5 to the side, $10 to the side, or something, so that one day I could possibly, I never thought, 20 years later, I would still be trying, like in this same spot I was 20 years ago when I contemplated stripping to get the money. Like, I never thought I'd still be here. So, girl, start your GoFundMe today. Start your little bank account, putting away a couple of dollars a day. And like a college fund, maybe one day you'll have enough for that lawyer. So, that is one of my regrets. Number two, I regret dropping him off. Girl, if you know what that's about. Okay, I regret dropping him off, and it's always made me feel as though had I not dropped him off, that he wouldn't even be in prison. Because the thing was that he didn't drive. He had a bike. Like he had a bike that I bought him or whatever. And if I hadn't have dropped him off on that corner with his bike to ride to his cousin's house that night, it was a Sunday. The city bus wasn't running. It would have really been no other way that Marcello could have gotten to his cousin's house. If you don't know, him going to his cousin's house is how he got mixed up in this whole ordeal in the first place. Just being around the wrong person at the wrong time, stuff go down, and just everybody jumps ship, and it all just turns to, hey, it's him, you know. But Marcello would have never been in that area had I not dropped him off. In so many days, I regret. And the thing was, now this one I'm gonna tell you, you get these urgings in your heart to do something, to just like I was telling you how I had the urging in my heart to go order me some more contacts, not knowing that, hey girl, days later I'm gonna break my freaking contact and just be like, this is way too much. But I had that gnawing at me, and I didn't listen. And the same thing when I dropped Marcello off that day. I felt like, girl, don't drop him off. Like I had this uneasy feeling. And I even told him, I was like, why? Like, we spent the most magical day together. And I'm like, why can't you stay at your grandmother's house on this side of town? And I don't know. We kind of argued this and that, and it was some words said by him, words said by me, but the last word I said was, I will never drop you off again. I'll never, this is the last time I'll ever drop you off. Don't ever ask me again to drop you off down there. And I didn't drop him off. I refused. But I did drop him halfway, which was close enough for him to ride his bike the rest of the way to his cousin's house. And I always regretted dropping him off, because had I not dropped him off that detrimental night, he may not have been present. Well, he wouldn't have been present, and he wouldn't even be in prison most likely. So that is one of my biggest regrets. Number 3, not convincing him to take the plea. Girl, do you know how many times I kick myself? I wish I can go back and just slap myself. I wish I could slap him, like, please, like, shake him, like, Marcello, take the plea. Please take the plea. God, had he took the plea, though it sounded horrible, 17 years for something you didn't do. Yes, that sounds horrible to a 19-year-old man. Well, 20 once he went to trial. Yes, that sounds horrible. But the situation we are in now is way more horrible. Had he took those 17 years, see, we didn't know about 85%. 85% of 17 years is a lot less than 85% of 40 years. And that's what he's doing now, 85% of 40 years. I wish he had a took that plea, and I wish I had a just told him. And I did tell him at that, after speaking to his public defender, and the public defender was telling us before trial that he has about a 5% chance of winning. And Marcello saying, I didn't do this. I can't take 17 years for something I didn't do. Though I stood by his side because he wanted to take it to trial, and he wanted to fight for what was right, because he thought that, we're innocent to proven guilty. A lot of these misconceptions now we know are not true. You're not really innocent till proven guilty. They tell you that, but you're actually guilty when you walk up in that freaking courtroom. We didn't know that. But what we did know was this lawyer telling us that, hey, think of me as your doctor, and you had a cancer in your arm. And I didn't advise you to cut your arm off. And you didn't cut your arm off, and the cancer spread, and you ultimately died. This is exactly the words and the analogy that his lawyer gave to us the last meeting. And he said, would I be a bad doctor if I didn't advise you to cut off your arm and you died. He said, Marcello, I am telling you, take the 17 years, cut your arm off so that you can live. He said, are you going to take the plea? Marcello said, I can't take 17 years for something I didn't do. He said, all right then, kiss your daughter goodbye. That's the last words he said. And hearing all of that, I don't know why I didn't beg him. I didn't plead him, Marcello, please just take this time. I didn't know that if you look like you're willing to take a amount of time, you can negotiate. He could have got a lesser sentence. And even with 17 years, he would have only done about 14 and a half years, which we are at year 20. He could have been home 6 years ago. Our daughter turned 20. He could have been there at least through her high school years. He could have been there when my mother passed. He could have seen our daughter graduate. He could have seen our daughter get every accolade that she got in high school. He could have seen her graduate as a dual enrollment student in not just high school at the top of her class, but in tech school at the top of her class. Because he did not take that plea, he missed it all. And he's about to miss her college graduation next year. He won't be out for another 17 more years. Isn't that ironic? He has another 17 more years to take. So not only by not convincing him to take that plea did he not get that 17 years, he got 17 times 2 plus. Like, I wish I had just told him to think about it. Please think about it. Okay, number 4. I regret my misfocused energy, such as my music, Project Reach the World, my YouTube, and etc. I definitely regret the music. Though I love music, I never would have pursued a music career had Marcello not been in prison. The whole thing sparked from recording one song about him, hoping in his wrongful conviction, hoping to get it on the radio, hoping that somebody would hear our story, hoping that somebody would say, hey, I know somebody that can help you guys. Is that a true story? And then hoping the story can break and then somebody would help. But instead, I got down a road of the I'm telling you, music industry is something else. And when I realized how it really was, how for a female to make it, she really just got to sleep her way in there. Like, honestly, it it just became wasted time. It was wasted, misfocused energy when I could have been focusing more in on things that would have actually helped further his case. The YouTube has kind of became, oh, Project Reach the World. Project Reach the World. If you don't know what that is, I can link that in the description box. And that is where I've gone to all these different concerts, events, anything going on, painting everybody that is any who's who, trying to get the story of Marcello out, taping that demo that I had of the song with the story of Marcello being wrongfully convicted. All the money I spent on music conferences, concerts, all these places, though they seem fun, I always went with the intent that I'm trying to get this story out. And I spent years doing that. I think Project Reach the World it started in 2006 and it kind of really got going in 2008. And I spent so many years behind that, just who can I meet next? Who can I try to target next that can possibly help us? Who would possibly care? Because I know everybody doesn't care about this situation, but I know there's this one person that would care and that could help us, that would help us. And it's just a matter of time before I reach them and meet them, and this could be turned, overturned. And I think that also became a side, kind of a side, what do you call that? A detour. Like, instead of staying on this path of fighting this case and possibly researching his case and maybe finding things that way, I went a whole different way that led to nothing, a detour that led to a dead end. Because though I've met a lot of influential people, nobody has not even looked into his story. So it kind of became pointless. Um, I added the YouTube in there because that's my latest venture that I just can't seem to let go. And though it is not really prosperous, it's growing, but it's growing at the slowest sloth pace that you can imagine. It's not becoming what I thought. What the fuck? The hell is it? It's not becoming what I thought it would be. So it's like, if it's not progressing the story, it's pretty much just a time waster. And I also, on the tail end of finishing college, I feel like I should have focused. I focused so hard in on this YouTube, and I really truly feel like I should have been focusing in on my graphic design business. Like, that's where my mind should have been, because being a graphic designer, building a graphic design business clearly could have brought me in like reachable money, like actual money that I can grasp. Like, had I been cultivating those skills rather than YouTube. YouTube is kind of like a shot in the dark, and it, it some people YouTube works, some people it just doesn't work, and it seems that it's just not working for me. And I'm steady like stirring a pot that won't boil, or that's not boiling for me, instead of stirring the pot that could potentially get me to that lawyer money. So I kind of regret that. um so that's where we trying to pivot. That's why the less editing is here. I don't want to quit the YouTube, but baby, I can't put my all into it like that, like all my time into it like I have for this last year. So I'm kind of letting that go. So that's what I mean by that. Um, Not taking better care of myself and my health. Yes, that is a big regret, because being on this journey, you forget about yourself. You become engulfed. Well, number one, I was a single mother. So when you become a mother, automatically you put that child first. So that's a given. There wouldn't have been, I already would have been second place. Even if Marcello hadn't been here, I was going to be second place, because my child comes first. Her needs comes before mine's. And that's not the regret of having the child. You know what I'm saying? The child first. I'm not regretting that. But what I am regretting is all this time and energy spent towards fighting that. If you're fighting for your loved one, and if you're fighting a freaking wrongful conviction, it's almost impossible to fight a wrongful conviction. It's starting to feel like, to me, it's harder to fight a wrongful conviction than if you fought for your husband to have a second chance. I feel like it's easier to fight for him to have a second chance when he did commit a crime and he just needs that second shot at life. He's been rehabilitated and he's no longer that person. I feel like that person has a better shot than the wrongfully convicted because people completely close that out. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear you apologize for something. But in Marcello's case, he did not do the crime. So how can he apologize for what he didn't do? So it's like, I don't know. So behind all that fighting, and had it brought him home, I wouldn't regret it. I would not regret it. But baby, he's still 7 hours away from here. Like he's nowhere near me, and he's only getting further and further away, which means that my fighting has been in vain. So that's the reason I regret it, because it never came into full like full bloom. It never brought him home. It's like I don't know. It's just the fight was in vain, and that's a big regret of mine. To fight that long, that's a long fight. If anybody can actually 20 years, can you imagine fighting for something 20 years and never achieving it? Like that, it's a hard blow. And I'm trying to, get over that. I'm trying to learn how to look more into the future and forget the past, because I don't know. But hopefully, my regrets will help you to not make those same regrets. Remember yourself, remember your health. All them years of me not sleeping due to situations going on with him. He's in the hole, he's in confinement, he's being transferred, not being able to, be happy, not being able to be in the moment because I'm wishing for the moment he comes home. Like, and when you're running, besides not sleeping, you're not eating correctly. You're not, it became to one point where I went to the doctor right before my mother passed. And I had worked overnight. Since Marcello went to prison, I worked overnight, like basically our daughter's whole, up until maybe 16, working overnight, not taking care of myself, barely sleeping, barely eating right. So tired that I eat the first thing that I see, which is usually not the most healthiest thing. And they told me that I was in pre-diabetic stage. Do you know how I felt? I felt like a loser. I couldn't believe that I allowed myself to get to that point. And I was embarrassed. And I was so scared that my mother would find out. Because I thought she'd be like, Kita, how did you let this happen? Why didn't you take better care of yourself? And I'm going to tell you, when I got that diagnosis, I did all that I could. I went to the track and started running. I stopped eating certain things, and I started dropping the weight. And I started, actually, when I went to my next appointment, they took me out of that diabetic state. But I couldn't believe I let myself get there. And I did better. But right after that, my mother passed, and it made me feel like, wow, every time I get some good, some bad comes with it. So I just regret that. And I haven't ever been able to get myself on 100% healthy track, because your mind is always preoccupied some freaking where else besides being on yourself. Okay. I miss, I regret, I'm sorry, number 6, missing the best part of my life, being a prison wife. Now, I love Marcello very, very, very much, but I have missed out on a lot due to being a prison wife. My 20s, I became a prison wife at the age of 20. Yes. That's very young. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I look at her and I'm like, could she go through the things that I went through? I'm sure she could if placed or forced into that situation, but it hurts. It's like, how would she be able to? She's so young. She's so, see, when I was 20, when you are yourself are 20, you feel like you're growner than anybody, but you don't realize how young you were. And it's like I just regret 20s are supposed to be the most beautifulest time of your life. But for me, it was some of the darkest days, like the darkest days of my life. When my 30s came, it got a little better, or I think I got a little better with all the depression. Maybe I handle it a lot better once I turned, 30. But my 20s were dark. They were dark. And I regret being like that. Like, I should have been happy. And a lot of that depression feeds off onto your child. I probably caused a lot of her depression, behind me being depressed. And I really regret that. Like, so much missed. Like, that's supposed to be the happiest time of your life. So I regret that. I really do. And those are times I cannot get back. I cannot relive them. All I can do is move from this day forward. Um, let's see. Where we at? 7. We're almost done. I regret the way I raised our daughter. Due to this, working overnight, limited money, trying to do everything, trying to handle everything. I raised our daughter very tired, very overwhelmed, always, like, I was always frustrated. I was always upset. Like, we would have good times together, but I mean, just her probably watching me just going through it. Like, I don't know. I think back on the times my mother was going through it and how I wanted to reach out and just help her so bad, but I couldn't help her. Like, I would help her as much as I could, but I couldn't, like, help solve her problems. And it really bothered me, and I'm sure it bothered our daughter. Like, mom is like, you know, like, what can I do to help her? Like, I really regret that. Like, I regret having to be tired all the time, never being there for holidays because I always had to work overnight. Um, always stressed out, like, stressed all the time. It's like I probably could have raised her a lot better.